welcome back. And this afternoon I've got another wonderful guest having a chat with me, and it's Keith Gullis. And Keith is out in Telford, an amazing curative hypnotherapist and healer. So it's going to be interesting to see how Keith got into this side of life and what his journey's been since childhood. So hello, Keith, and thanks for joining me. And can I just ask you, where were you brought up? Were you brought up in Telford? Were you born there?
No, I was born and bred, as they say, in a little town in Wiltshire called Corsham, between Bath and Swindon. I stayed there until, till my mid-20s, and I moved like 6 miles up the road to Chippenham, which people may be a little bit more familiar because it's the motorway junction. And then, I moved to Oxford. I was, at the time, I was 24, and I was the youngest licensee in Oxford at the time, so managed a pub there, and then I moved back to Wiltshire, stayed there for a few years, and then I went to Hungary for a couple of years, and then I came back to Wiltshire, and then I moved to Telford. So
that is quite a journey. You know, that's quite a road to get to Telford, isn't it?
It's not the straightest route.
No, definitely not. So what did you do in Hungary?
In Hungary, I moved out with the intentions. At the time, I was doing something which was called Tellington Touch. So it was a way of working with animals to be able to adjust behaviours with animals. And the plan was to move over there, bought a large property, lots of land, and the point was to set up a centre in Hungary for working with animals. But then the relationship side of things went belly up, and I ended up coming back. So it was unfortunately a bit of a pipe dream that turned into a bit more of a nightmare rather than a dream. So.
Okay, so I'm going to rewind a wee bit, because you're going to Hungary to work with animals. So how did you get started in this? You know, so were you like this as a child? Were you sort of into animals and people then, or was this something that came a wee bit later?
Always, I mean, from literally being, you know, that I can, as far back as I can remember, we always had pets, you know, whether it be rabbits or dogs, cats, goldfish, whatever they were. We always had animals, so there was always animals within the family. So that was just a thing I was brought up with. So always had an affinity with animals, and kind of a bond as well. I tend to find not so much noticeable when I was a child, I suppose, but certainly as I've grown up, that animals would kind of draw to me, where people go, oh God, they'd never done that with anybody before. So there was something there, but as a child, I didn't really, you know, realize that as such. So that was always there, but it only became part of like what I was going to do work-wise as I was sort of older, you know, adult life, because at school, all I ever wanted to be was a games teacher. Just wanted to teach PE. That was all I wanted to do. That was my goal in life, right up until what we used to call fifth year when I was at school. And I suddenly found out that if you wanted to be a games teacher, you also had to do an academic qualification as well. And that was it. My whole world just sunk. It blew apart, because it's like, I ain't doing geography or English or anything like that. That's not what I want. I just want to teach sport. So I was stuck then with no direction and had no idea what I wanted to do. And literally, as I said, it sounds a bit sort of dramatic, but my world fell apart. The sets that I was in, I went from being sort of in the top 2 sort of stocks to dropping right the way down through into pretty much bottom sets, because I had no interest in anything anymore. And that was it. So it wiped out what I thought my direction in life was then. So I left school with, I was going to say a handful, probably not even a handful of GCSEs that were at the time, or CSEs, sorry, they were at the time, weren't they? And with no idea what to do. My dad was an HGV mechanic. My brother was a car mechanic. So it's like, I'll be a mechanic. So I sort of bumbled my way through that, but very, very quickly found out it wasn't my vocation. Left that, went into sales, went out of sales, went into customer service, management of leisure centres, so kind of sticking on the sport theme. And then that went from there into, as I said, back into the public house management side of things. That lasted for 3 or 4 years, I think, and then back into office work, management type of managing control centres, customer service environment thing. And it only really started to change when I had an issue with a dog. I used to breed and show Japanese Akita Inus, and I'd imported one from Japan who sadly had some problems, which can't prove it, but I'm fairly certain was to do with vaccinosis, because the Japanese, because they were worried about the dogs not being able to be imported because of the rabies vaccine, so they would give them 2 jabs instead of the 1, thinking it was helping, but in fact it made it downright worse. And he was great when he came over. At the time, he was Japan's top winning brindle dog, so a really world famous dog. And within 6 months, he changed, his temperament changed. You have to be very, very cautious around him, because he would, like on the click of your fingers, he would just turn and get very, very possessive and guarding, etc. And because of him, that was when I started with the Tellington touch, because I was looking for something holistic, because, hey, this isn't his fault, because I could see how he was as a perfectly biddable dog, friendly, you could do anything with him, to being this dog without a warning would turn literally. And and I've got the scars on my arms to prove it. Ripped my arm open on 2 occasions where he could see everything inside my arm, and but it wasn't his fault. So that was when we looked for something, and I found this fabulous lady called Sarah Fisher, who at the time was running the Tellington Touch Centre in Bath, which was only just down the road from where I lived. So we took him to see her, even though she admitted at the time afterwards that she didn't want him as a client because of what had happened, but she stuck with him, and he did change. There were degrees you could see a change in him, but he was still, we had to just be careful with him, and that was that. But that started the whole process then of, this is something I want to do. It allows you to alter the behavior of animals, but not with I am man, so I will make you type of thing. And it was just using a system of rhythmic movements and slides, adjusting rather than muscle, just moving the skin. And by moving the skin, you then must have an effect on everything underneath the skin because of the input being different, and that would change their posture. If it changed their posture, it changes the way they think, and so on and so on and so on. So it was very holistic in its approach. So that was how I got with that. In the process of working on animals, you can also use it on humans. So, this started so I can do this, I can do that. So the interest was really sort of moving along and thinking, gosh, I can make a difference to people. And as much as I still wanted to help animals, the interacting with people, changing how people can be things, posture changes and stuff like that, again, on a very gentle rather than a forceful type of basis, that really intrigued me. And in the process of qualifying in T-Touch, I then moved to Hungary, so I had to come back a couple of times to finish off my training. But when everything went wrong in Hungary and I came back, I was just took the dog for a walk one day into town, and there was a big banner up saying holistic fair, blah blah blah, and I thought, have a look at that. So I took the dog back home after we'd been for a walk, walked back down and saw a lady who did a reading for me, and she said, all right, so you work with people? Work with animals? She went, no, they're showing me definitely you working with people. No, definitely not me. You got this totally wrong. But something in the back of my mind kind of thought maybe there's something in this. And I went home, got the laptop out, typed in hypnotherapy training. What I've forgot to tell you is that I always had an interest in it, watching what we now know, ridiculous stuff on the TV, you know, making people do silly things or whatever. But it didn't resonate with me at the time. It was like, no, it's funny to watch, but not my bag. So got home and I typed this in thinking, this is me working with people now. I can take this step. So typed it in, the details came up for the training, sent my information off, and went from there. 3-4 weeks afterwards, I couldn't remember it, so I typed in the same search into my laptop and the page never appeared. I couldn't find it for love nor money. It was just the fact that I had the telephone number wrote down that I then rang, but as far as the internet was concerned, I couldn't find it anymore. So there was some reason for doing this. And I signed up, did my distance learning, then did the residential training, and started with the curative hypnotherapy. And that was how I sort of started to get into working with people. That kind of morphed a little bit then into, with my spiritual beliefs as well, then into past life regression, so I was fairly certain I'd sussed out a way of being able to do past life regressions, but maybe I was wrong. So I went away and did a weekend training on past life regression, and very quickly, without wanting to sound sort of big-headed, kind of realized that I'd wasted the weekend because I already knew what I was doing in the first place. So that continued then to expand a little bit more, and understanding the way that we can work with the subconscious, either current or past life memories, etc. That became very quickly the biggest part of what I do. And yeah, that kind of sort of brings us up to date. But then the healing aspect took over, and this is kind of funny because I'll loop back again to the Tellington touch, because when I was doing some work with a particular German Shepherd at the time, and I can remember just laying my hands on him and just transmitting some thought or some sense or feeling into this, something that just felt intuitively right to do at the time. And the owner said to me, "That's not T-touch, you're doing something totally different, I can tell." And it was just that. So I kind of always had that under the surface feeling that I'm meant to do something with this. And that kind of then with the past lives, and then working again more on the spiritual side as to where the energy healing came out. And I then had a really cool, must be 3 and a bit years ago now, with a fabulous medium called Gordon Robert, and he just mapped it all out for me. Bang, this way, this, and the healing is the bit that will come forward. So that's kind of the latest stage of the journey, as it was, and I think will be, when, I don't know, we just have to wait for it to evolve as to how it will evolve, but that will become the greater part of what I do, I think, very much. So that intuitive feeling, having that sense under the surface that this is something I could do, but never really having engaged it before. And now having done that, certainly with hands-on, even with distance healing, the things that the results are, they've just been crazy. Parkinson's, stage 1 Parkinson's, we've had a massive effect on that. Arthritic joints, gone from being hugely swollen back down to pretty much normal. Fibromyalgia, even anxiety issues and that. So there's something there, and it's just something that's starting to evolve more and more and more now. So almost like a natural, yeah, I guess you have to call it a gift, because it's certainly not something that I've thought, oh, I'll go and learn how to do this. It's just something that seems to happen, for want of a better expression. So that's a very sort of potted, quick history of bringing us up to date. That's my sort of speedy journey.
A remarkable journey, really, especially when you wanted to start off as a sort of sports teacher, PE teacher, you know. It's amazing how people's lives change, isn't it? And they, you know, they seem to be called to one thing and then end up doing something completely different. And it's that change, isn't it? And it's learning to go with that change without resisting it too much, because that can cause more problems as well.
Very much so. I mean, it's, and you know, other instances in life now where, you know, you have that feeling, I'm going back years now, where I was unhappy in a job. I knew I should have left, but didn't do it because you have that insecurity. Oh, am I ever going to do this and that? And I was told if I don't follow my intuition, my instinct, it will be made to happen for me. And it did. I was forced to take action. It was, you know, kind of brought up to me. I hated it. The boss found, you know, kind of in his mind knew that I hated what I was doing, and he came up with a, you don't want to be here. And it was this, no, I do, I really do, you know, oh gosh, don't, because I didn't want the control taken away. But the second that control was taken away and I left the meeting, having convinced him I wanted to stay, I got 200 yards down the motorway and thought, you absolute idiot. He handed you on the plate and you've told him the opposite. So on the Monday morning, I phoned him up and said, no, you're right, I don't want to stay, I want to go. It was scary because it's like, what am I going to do? But if I hadn't done that, it would never have, I would have just bimbled through life, being miserable, hating Fridays, because Friday night, even though you should look forward to the weekend, meant oh my God, it's Monday again. So it was that feeling. And once that changed, can't believe the difference of not dreading a Friday night or a Saturday evening. That means it's Sunday, God, it'll be Monday again. I'm wasting your time by being worried about having to go back to a job you hate. And yeah, couldn't have, as I said, couldn't have happened in a better way in one way, but after it happened, you think, God, I should have done this years ago. But that was the biggest part of it. But yeah, having changed, going with that, and anybody, I know people, if they listen to this and think, oh, that sounds like me, but I can't do it, honestly. I said that, I can't do that. Oh no, I better not, because this, what am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about that? When it happens, we deal with it. All we do otherwise is worry about things that potentially aren't even going to be a problem. So best thing, just do it. Just do it.
I think that's fantastic advice, and that'll be helpful to a few people that are looking, you know, for some sort of diversion at the moment in their life. I think that's wonderful. So you're working from Telford now. You know, I know we're going through COVID at the moment, but once that and you're allowed to see your clients again, you will still be doing that in Telford. If people want to get in contact with you, Keith, what's the best way? Have you got a website that they can look at? Yeah,
they can go to www.keithgullis.co.uk, and that'll put you into my the Curative Hypnotherapy website. Otherwise, there's www.keithgullispLR for past life regression.co.uk, and that will send you to the my past life regression site. Currently, there's not a site for the healing, because it's still kind of in its infancy, although it's working really well. I'm kind of in the process of thinking of amalgamating everything into one site, so it's easy just to click on. So that's a little bit of a something still to come, but they can find me on Facebook. On my Facebook, there's a Facebook page for Keith Gullis Spiritual Energy Healing, or there's one for the past life, or again Curative Hypnotherapy. So any of those, use those, or if anybody on there, my phone number's on there. I understand some people might be a bit sort of, oh, I don't want to get into this because I'll feel obliged. I'll talk to you about any questions, anything you want to know. You can ring, I'll talk about it. There's no pressure, no obligation, because if it's not right or it doesn't feel right for you at that time, it doesn't matter anybody trying to do a hard sale on you, there's no point going. You'll go when things are right. If it feels right, it might not be that I resonate. If I don't resonate with you, somebody else will. And that's the important thing. You have to feel at ease. You have to think, yes, this is the right time for me, or this is the right treatment, or the right way to do that treatment for you. Because, you know, there are variations on a theme. Everybody's a little bit different in the way they work. And it doesn't mean that because I do it one way, I'm the only way or the right way and everybody else is wrong. It's just my way of doing things. So if that resonates with people, brilliant. But equally, if it doesn't, I'm still happy to talk and, you know, give you enough information to make your own decision. That's what it's all about. It's important that people find that comfort place, really, that place of comfort, because a lot of the time they will divulge information they never told anybody before. You know, I've had huge, great, strapping 20 stone, 6'5" blokes or whatever blubbing their eyes out in my chair because, oh, I've never told anybody this before. It's so, you know, I'm blessed in that way to have that privilege for people to be able to release,
let go,
to let those things go, but they'll only do that if they feel comfortable.
And I think that's important, isn't it? That confidentiality and that security, and knowing that you've created this safe place for somebody to be exactly who you are. And because of your qualifications and your professionalism, you know, that's one thing that you do guarantee is that confidentiality.
Yeah, it's crucial. I mean, I say to people, whatever you come to me for, if for whatever reason a spouse was to phone up and say, oh, so and so came to see you yesterday, I make an excuse, put the phone down. The first person I call is that person and say, look, so and so's phoned up. You talk to them, because I'm not telling them a thing. I don't even acknowledge that they've come to see me. It's nothing to do with, you know, anybody else. If the client wants to tell somebody, that's perfectly fine, but I ain't telling them anything. So blood from a stone would be easier.
Well, Keith, it's been absolutely wonderful, and what a journey, what a road to Telford for sure. And thank you very much. And hopefully I'll see you again soon. Okay.
Thanks, June. Take care, lovely.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.